This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning, Dan. And in for Amy this morning is Chicago Tribune columnist John Cass. And John, the daises are set for the Democrat Socialists. In order to secure one of the debate podiums, candidates had to either receive donations from at least 65,000 unique donors, with a minimum of 200 donors in more than 19 states, or receive at least 1% support in 3 Democrat National Committee approved polls. So those who qualified, 20 did, 4, well, I guess 5 technically did not. You're going to see, and there are going to be 2 panels of 10 candidates, very much like the GOP debates in 16. You're going to see Creepshow Joe and T-Bone Booker and Mayor Pete and Julian Castro and Tulsi Gabbard and Reparation H and Jay Inslee and Amy Klobuchar and Robert Francis Frost, you know him as Beto, and Bolshevik Bernie and Chief Warren and Marianne Williamson, the author, and Andrew Yang, the circumcision opponent and tech entrepreneur.
And they're all going to debate, right? And I have a problem with all these people. If they
Wait, I'm not done.
Oh, there's more. Okay, let's go.
And Steve Bullock, yes, the governor of Montana. And John Delaney, yes, a former member of Congress from Maryland. And Kristen Gillibrand, gay rights, woo! And
abortion is not racist. You oppose abortion, you're racist.
Right. Yes. You oppose it.
That's a mutza right there.
Oof, she's really something. As is Deep Throat Hickenlooper, Tim Ryan, and Eric Swalwell. You'll remember him as the congressman who wants to attack gun owners with nuclear weapons. Interesting, who has not qualified based on those rather low standards. Michael Bennett, a sitting United States Senator from Colorado. Seth Moulton, who's a rep from Massachusetts. Wayne Messam, who's a mayor of Miramar, Florida. Mike Gravel is a former senator from Alaska about 40 years ago. And the Sandinista himself, Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York City.
That's a blow.
Yeah.
That's a terrible blow.
How about it? Can't wait for those debates the end of this month, can you?
Why don't they save us all the trouble, and as they're competing in Iowa and the Midwest, can they just tell the people that they really hate them? We really hate you. We don't want you to have any vote. We're trying to get rid of the Electoral College so that California, the East Coast and the West Coast decide everything, and the people of the Midwest will eventually be involved in Hunger Games. Okay? Why don't they just admit what they're doing?
There's big issues that they'll be discussing.
Like health care for all?
Oh, bigger than that. Reparations for slavery.
Mm-hmm.
There's a hearing.
Nothing like pandering.
Excuse me, sir. No less than a Danny Glover is set to testify before a House panel. Actor Danny Glover is going to testify before a House panel on reparations, along with writer Ta-Nehisi Coates. I don't think you got a MacArthur Foundation Genius Award. Ta-Nehisi Coates did.
I have to get on that intersectional highway, you know.
This hearing will be next week. Interesting. The committee they'll be testifying before.
Mm-hmm.
The House Judiciary Subcommittee on the Constitution, Civil Rights, and Civil Liberties. Does that ring a bell at all?
Who's chairman?
Well, I think the chairman of the subcommittee is Finger Lickin' Cohen. That's the subcommittee that Jon Stewart just testified before this week, with the 9/11 families of first responders in tow. So this week they did extension of benefits and keeping the promise, Victims Compensation Fund for 9/11 first responders. Next week they're doing reparations. And what are the Democrat Socialist candidates talking about? Are they talking about? I'm not limited to them, but they are presidential candidates. I'd like to hear Trump weigh in on it as well. Are they talking about what popped to the surface because of Jon Stewart's testimony, keeping promises to those families who are essentially battle wounded from the worst terrorist attack on American soil just 19 18 years ago. Uh, are they talking about that, or are they talking about reparations?
Why can't you talk about both?
You can. I'd like to hear them make sure that that first is taken care of, and then what we can talk about reparations all day long. But for more on the Democrat debate and the state of play in for the state of play for 2020, I guess I should say. Darren Samuelsohn joins us. He's senior White House reporter for Politico, Politico.com. Darren, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning. So the 20 candidates that are going to appear at these debates, the one scheduled for June and another for July, end of June and July, that's set. I guess it is worth noting that Bill de Blasio hasn't qualified for the debates. It's sort of embarrassing for the mayor of New York City. But the kind of give us your sense of the state of play here with all of these candidates and who needs to move early if they're going to stay in this with those top tier candidates.
Well, obviously, Mr. Biden sits in the pole position, and I think will probably will be very interesting to see how he does at the first debate and whether everyone goes after him, piles on in the same way that, think back to the Republican debates of 4 years ago. And, you saw everyone sort of going after Jeb Bush in the early rounds there. That's where Donald Trump
Can I
came out.
Can I suggest and get your reaction to whether or not you think Beto has to have a moment in this debate? I mean, seriously, can he if he's going to resuscitate his standing as a tier one candidate, doesn't he need to do it pretty soon?
I wouldn't know if it's soon or not. I mean, I think everybody behind, the pack of the top 3-4 of Bernie and Elizabeth Warren and Biden need to step up here and make themselves into candidates who would have a shot. I mean, there certainly is a big bunched up number of candidates running here. So, there's going to be a whole host of debates. This is obviously the first one. Everyone will be watching the first one more than any other debate, but there are a whole series of them. So I think they have time to step up, if not in the first debate, in the next round that comes after that.
One of the other things that I think may be interesting in the debate, depending on how the panels ultimately are sorted out, you could actually have a rather spirited discussion about Democrat socialism as defined by Bernie Sanders and those who reject tossing around that label so freely, like John Hickenlooper and a couple of others potentially on that stage. That could be sort of an interesting moment.
You're going to have a lot of very interesting moments where I think they're going to be trying to outflank each other to the left, whether it be on policy or on the Trump administration, and several members who will try and appear far more moderate than the Bernie Sanders, part of the party. So yeah, I think that's going to happen through and through throughout the debate and throughout the primary campaign. Playing after different constituencies in the Democratic Party, trying to capitalize on the energy that is out there against President Trump, and then trying to appeal to the moderate voters who they would need in a general election.
So Biden will then emerge as the right-wing candidate of the Democratic Party? Is that how it's going to be played and written about in the breathless hours after the debate?
I don't know if we call him the right-wing of the Democratic Party, but I think Biden is probably going to be playing this down the middle as much as he possibly can, though doing using language and with policy as well to try and appeal to the left. But yeah, he is definitely the guy who's trying to play for the wider path and the wider number of voters who are the path to the actual general election win.
But there are subjects that might probably be off limits to the Democratic debate. I would think one would be the amount of homeless in the West Coast, particularly in San Francisco and Los Angeles. I would think another thing that would be off limits is what you've written about. Barr's, William Barr's investigation into the bureaucracy, the intelligence bureaucracy.
I don't think
Since Biden
those don't be off limits. They'll be criticized.
You think they will bring it up? Biden was part of that that let's do things by the book meeting. Will Democrats bring that kind of thing up?
I don't think that they'll bring it up per se. I mean, if it comes up in the course of the conversation, it's possible. I can see them maybe criticizing the Justice Department for going down that path of investigating the investigators. But I probably can't imagine that's where they're really going to be going in the course of a debate. Where when they talk about the investigation, I'm sure they're going to be focusing in much more on who believes Donald Trump should be impeached today versus who should be should he be impeached.
But what's not said
next week.
What's not said is often the interesting thing, right? What's avoided is
sure.
often the story.
Yeah, you're right. Like, who wants him impeached the most? I do. You have an interesting piece on that topic at Politico, where essentially the suggestion is, you quote a Trump legal advisor, Joe DiGenova, among others. Essentially, the idea is, I think the perspective of the Trump administration is they want the Democrats to continue to pursue this. They want to see Nancy Pelosi continuing to have this back and forth with her committee chairmen who are itching to move on a formal inquiry. And they think this plays into their hands, DiGenova saying it will benefit the president. The Democrats will be looked at as maniacs. So all of this talk and even some of the stuff that feeds more impeachment talk, it seems like it could arguably be by design by the president and his team.
There are certainly people in Donald Trump's orbit who welcome the idea of impeachment as a political cudgel that they can use to play the victim card, who also they can use to appeal to their base voters. So, I think there isn't a world around President Trump that would welcome impeachment. There is also a world around President Trump that would rather not have this debate at all, urging caution, saying that, look, if we go forward with this, who knows what's going to come out on the other side. So that's the debate that's playing out in Donald Trump's orbit right now. They have no control over impeachment. I make that point very clear. This is really a Nancy Pelosi decision.
Right.
At the same time, with the impeachment debate is one that Donald Trump, just loves, I think, and it plays straight to his strengths as a candidate, to have, the Democrats, who are also divided, clearly, as you guys have been talking about on this topic, and, anything that he can do to exploit those divisions, to make it harder for Nancy Pelosi in her position as Speaker of the House. From Nancy Pelosi's perspective, impeaching Donald Trump right now, it goes nowhere in the Senate. It maybe doesn't even pass the House, and obviously puts a ton of her House members on the spot, having to decide, where they're going to go and do they vote differently than what their districts want them to be voting on, and could potentially turn Nancy Pelosi, back to the House Minority Leader after the 2020 midterms. But again, the politics of impeachment, we have such little historical evidence to go on. We have the Bill Clinton example from 21 years ago. A totally different time in American politics. People were getting their information in the news in much different ways than they do today. So hard to really compare the 1998-2000 example that, really has become the baked-in conventional wisdom. And even in that 1998-2000 conventional wisdom, it actually cuts both ways. In 98, the Republicans ran trying to tie Bill Clinton and his scandals together. They lost 5 seats in the House midterm in 98 that they were widely expected to win. Newt Gingrich lost his job over that campaign. 2 years later, Al Gore kind of gets the Bill Clinton scandal, hung around his neck, and George W. runs on restoring faith and integrity of the White House, and indeed wins. So that would seem to imply that perhaps in the other direction, pushing impeachment, trying to drag all of Donald Trump's scandals around his neck could potentially help the Democrats.
With respect to Pelosi, Was she the audience this week for the House Judiciary Committee's Watergate Theater? Is it them trying to put pressure on her to continue to have spectacles like John Dean, to trying to whip up enough frenzy to persuade her?
I think that I heard that for sure. I definitely heard people say they thought that the audience was Pelosi trying to show her that the committee can, do a hearing without, devolving into a spectacle. I was there for the hearing. It was not as contentious as other House Judiciary hearings that I've seen, but it was widely seen. It didn't really have any breakthrough revelations. It was a group of witnesses who have nothing really to do with the actual case at hand. But they're kind of biding time as they try and line up their witnesses, and they needed to do something. Trying to draw that historical perspective to Richard Nixon is something that they are doing strategically. I wrote about this yesterday at Politico, and they see a number of comparisons between Nixon and Trump, and they see the idea of televised hearings like Nixon as key to changing American opinion on this topic. These are the pro-impeachment Democrats I'm talking about here, and so that's what was going on there, and whether it was greatly successful, there's a lot of hearings that happen on Capitol Hill on any given day that don't get any attention whatsoever. So, this one got a little bit of attention. I think it was probably would have been on television more had the accident not happened, the fatal accident not happened in New York that cut away, I think, a lot of the mainstream TV coverage. He
is Darren Samuelsohn, senior White House reporter for Politico, Politico.com. Darren, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, have a good day.
Take care. And you join us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at